Chinidu's hands were shaking as he stared at the bank statement on his computer screen. The numbers didn't lie. His company account showed 847 million Nigerian nairas, over 800 million naira. Just 6 months ago, he had been broke, sleeping on the floor of his empty office, eating 1 meal a day. This can't be real, he whispered to himself, rubbing his eyes and looking at the screen again. The money was still there. Behind him, he heard the soft tap-tap-tap of footsteps, the sound he had learned to hate when he first met her. The sound of his wife's walking stick hitting the floor as she moved around their house. The same sound that had made him feel sorry for her. The same sound that had made him agree to marry her out of pity. Chinidu. Halima's gentle voice called from the doorway. Are you okay? You've been staring at that screen for an hour. He turned to look at her, this quiet girl from Jos who walked with a limp, who everyone had told him was damaged goods. Her dark eyes were filled with concern, and her headscarf was perfectly arranged around her face. She looked so innocent, so simple, but Chinidu now knew the truth. This simple-looking woman had just made him richer than he had ever dreamed possible. Halima, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. What have you done? She smiled that mysterious smile he had come to know so well. I told you I would help save your company. Did you think I was joking? Chinidu's mind raced back to their wedding day 8 months ago. He remembered how ashamed he had felt, how he had avoided looking at his friends' faces when they saw his bride limping down the aisle. He remembered the whispers. Why would a successful man like Chinidu marry a crippled girl? She must have some serious money. He's probably just doing it for his mother. They were all wrong. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, please subscribe to my channel. Turn on the bell notification icon so that you will be the first to be notified anytime I drop a new story. Halima didn't come from money. Her father was a retired civil servant, and her mother sold vegetables in Jos Market. She had no connections, no powerful family, no secret wealth. So how had she turned his failing construction company into a gold mine? I need to know everything, Chinidu said, standing up from his chair. I need to know exactly what you did. Because if this money came from something illegal, if you've put us in danger. Sit down, husband, Halima said calmly, moving to the chair across from his desk. Let me tell you a story. As she settled into the chair, adjusting her wrapper and placing her walking stick beside her, Chinidu felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in her eyes, a sharpness he had never noticed before, like she was seeing right through him. Do you remember the night your mother died? She asked. Of course he remembered. It was the night that had changed everything. The night that had led to this moment. The rain was pouring down on Lagos as Chinidu sat in his car outside the hospital. His mother had just taken her last breath, and he felt like his world was falling apart. She had been the only person who truly believed in him, the only one who had supported his dream of building a construction company. Promise me something, Chinidu, his mother had whispered to him just hours before she died. Promise me you'll marry that girl from Jos Halima. She's a good girl. She will be good for you. Chinidu had wanted to argue. He had wanted to tell his mother that he couldn't marry a girl he barely knew, especially one who walked with a limp. What would his friends think? What would his business partners say? He was only 28 years old, successful and handsome. He could have any woman he wanted. But as he looked into his mother's weak eyes, he couldn't bring himself to break her heart in her final moments. I promise, Mama, he had said, holding her hand. Now, sitting in his car as the rain hit his windshield, Chinidu felt the weight of that promise. His mother was gone. His company was about to collapse. He had 3 major contracts that had fallen through in the past month, and his workers hadn't been paid in 6 weeks. The bank was threatening to take his office building, and somehow he had to find a way to marry a girl he had only met twice at family gatherings. Chinidu pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found the number his mother had given him. Halima Abdullahi, the contact read. He had never even called her before. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Hello. Her voice was soft, with a slight Hausa accent. Halima, this is Chinedu. Chinedu Okafor. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you, she said quietly. I heard about your mother. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you. Chinedu took a deep breath. I need to ask you something. It might sound crazy, but would you consider marrying me? There was silence on the other end of the line. For a moment, Chinedu thought she had hung up. Why? She finally asked. Because my mother asked me to. It was her dying wish. Another long pause. I see, Halima said. And what do you think about it? Chinedu was surprised by the question. He had expected her to be grateful, excited even. Most girls would jump at the chance to marry a man like him. I think it would be the right thing to do, he said carefully. The right thing to do, she repeated. Not because you want to marry me, but because it's the right thing to do. Halima, I'll think about it, she said. Give me 1 week. The line went dead. Chinedu stared at his phone in confusion. Had she just hung up on him? After he had offered to marry her? He couldn't understand it. Any other girl would have said yes immediately, but Halima seemed almost uninterested. Chinedu's phone rang at exactly 7 p.m. He had been checking his watch every 5 minutes, wondering if Halima would call at all. Hello, Chinedu, she said when he answered. I've made my decision, and I will marry you, but I have 3 conditions. Chinedu almost laughed. Conditions? What are they? First, I want to work. I don't want to be a housewife sitting at home all day. Second, I want to be involved in your business. I want to understand what you do and how you do it. Third, I want us to be honest with each other. Always. Those are reasonable conditions, Chinedu said, though he wasn't sure why she would want to be involved in his failing business. Good. When do you want to have the wedding? How about in 1 month? I'll make all the arrangements. No, Halima said firmly. We'll plan it together. I may be marrying you out of necessity, but I won't let you treat me like I don't matter. Once again, Chinedu was surprised by her directness. This quiet girl from Jos had more backbone than he had expected. All right, he agreed. Together it is. The wedding was small, just close family and a few friends. Chinedu had wanted to keep it simple, partly because he was running out of money and partly because he was embarrassed. As he stood at the altar waiting for Halima, he felt like he was making the biggest mistake of his life. His best friend Emeka had tried to talk him out of it the night before. Guy, you're not thinking straight, Emeka had said. You're grieving your mother, your business is failing, and now you want to marry a girl you don't even know? A girl who can't even walk properly. Don't talk about her like that. Chinedu had snapped, surprising himself with his anger. I'm just saying, man. You're young, you're successful, you can have any woman you want. Why tie yourself down to someone who will only hold you back? Now, as the music started and Halima appeared at the back of the small church, Chinedu felt all eyes on them. He watched as she walked slowly down the aisle, her father supporting her on one side, her walking stick in her other hand. She was wearing a simple white dress and a matching headscarf. No makeup, no jewelry except for small gold earrings. She looked so different from the glamorous Lagos girls he usually dated. As she reached the altar, Chinedu noticed something in her eyes. While he felt nervous and unsure, she looked calm and determined, like she knew exactly what she was doing. You look beautiful, he whispered to her as she took her place beside him. Thank you, she whispered back. You look nervous. I am, he admitted. Don't be. Everything will be fine. The way she said it with such confidence made Chinedu feel a little better. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Living with Halima was nothing like Chinedu had expected. She was quiet, but not in a shy way. She was thoughtful. She watched everything, listened to everything, and asked questions that made him think. She kept her promise about being involved in his business. Every morning, she would sit with him as he went through his emails and phone calls. She would listen as he complained about contracts falling through, workers demanding their pay, and suppliers refusing to deliver materials. Tell me about your biggest contract, she said one morning as they sat in his home office. The one we just lost? It was for a hotel in Victoria Island. 200 million naira project. The client said we were too expensive. But you calculated the costs correctly? Of course I did. Materials, labor, overhead, profit margin. Everything. Halima nodded thoughtfully. What if the problem isn't your calculations? What if the problem is your approach? What do you mean? You're trying to compete with the big construction companies by doing the same things they do. But you're smaller, so you can't match their prices. What can you do that they can't? Chinedu had never thought about it that way. I don't know. What do you think? I think you need to find a different kind of customer. Someone who values something other than just the lowest price. Like what? Halima smiled. Let me think about it. But first, I need to understand your business better. Can you take me to see some of your past projects? The next day, Chinedu took Halima to see 3 houses he had built in Lekki. As they walked through the properties, she asked detailed questions about everything: the materials used, the construction process, the timeline, the challenges they had faced. This is good work, she said, running her hand along a wall. Very solid. How much did you charge for this house? 50 million naira. And how much would the big companies charge for the same house? Maybe 45 million. So you charged more, but you did better work? Yes. But the clients don't always understand that. Halima nodded. The problem is that you're not reaching the right clients. You're trying to compete for contracts where price is the only thing that matters. But there are people who will pay more for quality work. Where do I find these people? You don't find them. You make them come to you. As they drove back home, Chinedu's phone rang. It was his site manager, calling about another problem with one of their current projects. We're having issues with the foundation, the man said. The concrete isn't setting properly. What kind of issues? Chinedu asked, putting the call on speaker. The mix is too wet. We need to add more cement, but we're already over budget. Chinedu felt his stomach drop. This was the kind of problem that could destroy what was left of his business. Use the extra cement, he said. We'll figure out the cost later. After he hung up, Halima was quiet for a long moment. How many projects do you have right now? She asked. 3. All small ones. Houses for middle-class families. And how many of them are having problems? All of them, Chinedu admitted. It's like everything is falling apart at once. No, Halima said. It's like someone is making sure everything falls apart. Chinedu looked at her in surprise. What do you mean? I mean, it's very strange that all your projects are having problems at the same time. Problems with materials, problems with workers, problems with clients. That doesn't usually happen by accident. You think someone is sabotaging my business? I think someone doesn't want you to succeed. The question is, who benefits if you fail? That evening, Chinedu called his site manager back. Bello, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Yes, sir? Have you noticed anything strange about our recent projects? People you don't recognize hanging around the sites? Unusual problems with materials? There was a pause. Sir, I was actually hoping to talk to you about that. There's been this man coming to the sites, asking questions about our work. He says he's from the government, checking for safety violations. What kind of questions? Technical questions about our methods, our materials, our schedules. And every time he comes, we have problems the next day. Chinedu felt his blood run cold. What does this man look like? Tall, light-skinned, expensive clothes. He drives a black Range Rover. Chinedu knew exactly who Bello was describing. Chief Adebayo, the owner of the biggest construction company in Lagos. The same man who had been trying to buy out smaller companies for years. Bello, from now on, don't let anyone on the sites without calling me first. And if that man comes back, take pictures of him and his car. Yes, sir. After hanging up, Chinedu turned to Halima, who had been listening to the conversation. Chief Adebayo, he said. He's been sabotaging my projects so he can buy my company for nothing. Are you sure? I'm sure. He made me an offer 3 months ago, a ridiculous lowball offer. When I refused, he said I would regret it. Halima was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What do you know about this Chief Adebayo?" "He's rich, powerful, connected. He has contracts with the government, with big corporations. He's basically untouchable." "Nobody is untouchable," Halima said softly. "Everyone has weaknesses." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that if he's working so hard to destroy you, it means he sees you as a threat. That means you have something he wants." "But what?" "My company is failing. I have no money, no connections, no power." Halima smiled. "You have something more valuable than all of that." "What?" "You have integrity. And in this business, that's rarer than gold." The next morning, Halima woke up early and made breakfast for both of them. As they sat eating, she pulled out a notebook filled with her handwriting. "I've been thinking about your business," she said. "And I have an idea." "What kind of idea?" "Instead of trying to compete with the big companies for big contracts, what if you specialized in something they can't do?" "Like what?" "Like building for people who have been ignored by the big companies. People who need quality work but can't afford luxury prices." Chinedu frowned. "That sounds like a recipe for making less money, not more." "Not if you do it right. What if you could build good houses for middle-class families at prices they can afford, but do it faster and better than anyone else?" "How?" "By changing your entire approach. Instead of building each house from scratch, what if you developed a system? Standard designs, pre-made components, streamlined processes. You could build 3 houses in the time it takes the big companies to build one." Chinedu was intrigued despite himself. "That's actually not a bad idea. But I would need capital to set up that kind of system." "How much capital?" "At least 50 million naira. Maybe more." "And where would you get that money?" "I have no idea. The banks won't lend to me, and I don't have any rich relatives." Halima smiled. "But you have something the banks want." "What?" "You have 3 houses in Lekki that you built for clients who haven't paid you yet, right?" "Yes, but they're not officially mine. The clients own them." "But you have liens on them because they haven't paid you. That means you can use them as collateral." Chinedu stared at her. "How do you know about liens and collateral?" "I studied business in university. I may walk with a limp, but my brain works perfectly fine." For the first time since they had gotten married, Chinedu felt a spark of real respect for his wife. She wasn't just pretty or kind or dutiful. She was smart, really smart. "But even if I could get a loan," he said, "Chief Adebayo would just sabotage me again." "Not if we're smarter than him." "What do you mean?" Halima leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. "What if we let him think he's winning? What if we make him believe you're about to give up and sell your company to him?" "But I'm not going to sell to him." "No, but he doesn't know that. While he's focused on destroying your current projects, you can be secretly building your new system. By the time he realizes what's happening, it will be too late." Chinedu felt his heart racing. This was either the craziest plan he had ever heard, or the most brilliant. "There's just one problem," he said. "I don't know how to set up this kind of system. I'm a builder, not a business strategist." "That's why you have me," Halima said. "I may not know construction, but I know business. And I know something else that might help." "What?" "I know Chief Adebayo's biggest weakness." Chinedu nearly choked on his coffee. "You know Chief Adebayo?" "I know of him. My father worked for the government for 30 years. He told me stories about contractors who cut corners, who bribed officials, who built substandard buildings that collapsed and killed people." "And Chief Adebayo was one of them?" "Chief Adebayo was the worst of them. But he's been very careful to cover his tracks. Very careful. Until now." "What do you mean?" Halima pulled out her phone and showed him a news article. 3 weeks ago, a building he constructed in Abuja developed cracks. The government is investigating, but they don't have enough evidence to prove he used substandard materials. So, what if someone gave them that evidence?" Chinedu stared at his wife, realizing for the first time that he had seriously underestimated her. This quiet girl from Jos wasn't just smart. She was dangerous. Halima, he said slowly, what exactly are you planning? She smiled, and for a moment, he saw something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. It was the look of someone who had been planning this for a very long time. I'm planning to save your company, she said, and destroy Chief Adebayo in the process. But how do you know all this about him? How do you know about the building in Abuja? Because, my dear husband, I've been researching him for months. Ever since I first heard your name. Chinedu felt like the world had shifted beneath his feet. You've been researching me? Of course. Did you think I would agree to marry a man I knew nothing about? Even if it was for your mother's sake. But you said you needed time to think about my proposal. I didn't need time to think about marrying you. I needed time to figure out how to save your business. Why would you want to save my business? You barely knew me. Halima was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Because your mother was kind to me. When everyone else looked at me with pity or disgust, she saw something else. She believed I could help you, and I promised her I would. You promised her? When? The day before she died. I visited her in the hospital. Chinedu felt like he couldn't breathe. You visited my mother? She called me. She was worried about you, about your business. She knew you were too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to see what was really happening. She asked me to help you, even if you didn't want my help. So you married me to help me? I married you because I believe in keeping my promises. And because I believe in you. As Chinedu stared at his wife, he realized that everything he thought he knew about his marriage was wrong. He hadn't saved her by marrying her out of pity. She had saved him by agreeing to marry him at all. What happens now? He asked. Now, Halima said, standing up and reaching for her walking stick. We go to war. But as she walked toward the door, her phone rang. She answered it immediately. Hello? What? Are you sure? When? I'll be right there. She hung up and turned to Chinedu, her face pale. We have a problem, she said. Chief Adebayo just bought out your biggest supplier. As of today, you can't get materials for any of your projects. Chinedu felt his heart sink. That means all your current projects will fail. Your workers will quit. Your clients will sue you. And you'll be forced to sell your company to him for nothing. Unless we move faster than I thought we'd have to. She grabbed her car keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? To Jos. There's someone I need to see. Who? My uncle. He has something Chief Adebayo doesn't know about. Something that could change everything. What kind of something? Halima paused at the door and looked back at him. The kind of something that could make you the richest man in Nigeria. And with that, she was gone, leaving Chinedu alone with more questions than answers, and the terrifying realization that his quiet wife from Jos was about to turn his entire world upside down. But he had no idea that what she was planning would not only save his company, it would make him a multimillionaire and change the construction industry in Nigeria forever. The question was, could he survive what was coming next? Chinedu spent the next 3 days in agony. His phone rang constantly. Angry workers demanding their pay, suppliers refusing to deliver materials, clients threatening to cancel their contracts. Every time he tried to call Halima, her phone went straight to voicemail. On the 4th day, his site manager Bello called with the worst news yet. Sir, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the workers have gone on strike. They're refusing to continue work until they get paid. And the clients for the Victoria Island project want to meet with you today. They're talking about canceling the contract. Chinedu felt like he was drowning. Bello, just tell everyone I'll have answers soon. How soon, sir? Because Chief Adebayo's people came by yesterday. They were talking to the workers, offering them jobs with his company. Of course they were. This was exactly what Chief Adebayo wanted, to steal his workers, ruin his reputation, and force him to sell his company for nothing. That evening, as Chinedu sat in his empty office staring at unpaid bills, his phone finally rang with Halima's number. Where have you been? He asked immediately. Everything is falling apart here. I know, she said calmly. I've been watching the news. But don't worry. I have what we need. What do you mean? I'll be back in Lagos tomorrow morning. Meet me at the airport. And Chinedu. Yes. Wear your best suit. We're going to see some very important people. Chinedu arrived at the airport an hour early, pacing nervously in the arrivals hall. When Halima finally emerged from the gate, she wasn't alone. Behind her walked a tall, distinguished man in traditional northern dress, and beside him was a young woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase. Chinedu, Halima said as she approached, I want you to meet my uncle, Alhaji Musa Abdullahi, and his business partner, Fatima Gabra. The man stepped forward and shook Chinedu's hand firmly. I've heard a lot about you, young man. Halima tells me you're facing some challenges. That's one way to put it, Chinedu said, confused. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. How can you help with my construction business? Alhaji Musa smiled. Perhaps we should talk somewhere more private. An hour later, they were sitting in a private room at the Sheraton Hotel. Fatima had opened her briefcase and spread documents across the table. Chinedu, Halima said, what do you know about tin mining? Tin mining? Nothing. Why? Because, Alhaji Musa said, I own the largest tin mining operation in Plateau State, and I have a problem that your construction company might be able to solve. Chinedu looked at the documents on the table. They were geological surveys, mining reports, and what looked like architectural plans. I don't understand, he said. Fatima leaned forward. Mr. Okafor, tin mining produces a lot of waste materials. For decades, mining companies have been dumping this waste in huge piles around the mining sites. It's an environmental problem, and it's expensive to store. But recently, Alhaji Musa continued, scientists have discovered that processed tin mining waste can be used to make incredibly strong, lightweight construction materials, stronger than regular concrete, cheaper to produce, and environmentally friendly. Chinedu felt his heart racing. You're talking about turning mining waste into construction materials? Not just any construction materials, Halima said. Revolutionary materials that could change the entire construction industry in Africa. Materials that are 30% stronger than regular concrete, 50% lighter, and 40% cheaper to produce. But, Fatima added, the process requires specialized construction techniques. We need someone who understands both traditional construction and innovative building methods. Someone who can set up a production facility and train workers. Someone like me, Chinedu said, finally understanding. Someone exactly like you, Alhaji Musa confirmed. I've been looking for the right construction partner for 2 years. When Halima told me about your situation, I knew this was meant to be. Chinedu looked at his wife. You've known about this the whole time? I've known about my uncle's tin mining business since I was a child, but I only learned about the new construction materials 3 months ago, when I started researching ways to help your company. 3 months ago? But we only met. I told you I researched you before agreeing to marry you. I knew about your company, your problems, your potential. I also knew that if we could solve your immediate crisis, you would be the perfect partner for my uncle's project. Fatima pulled out another document. This is a preliminary business plan. If we can successfully produce and market these new materials, we're looking at potential profits of over 2 billion naira in the first year alone. Chinedu's head was spinning. 2 billion naira? That's just the beginning, Alhaji Musa said. Once we prove the concept in Nigeria, we can expand to other African countries. Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. The construction industry across Africa is booming, and everyone is looking for cheaper, stronger materials. But what about Chief Adebayo? Chinedu asked. He's not going to just let me become his competitor. Chief Adebayo is the least of our worries, Halima said with a smile. In fact, he's about to become our biggest advertisement. What do you mean? Remember that building in Abuja that developed cracks? The one the government is investigating. Yes. Well, while I was in Jos, I did some research. It turns out that building was constructed using substandard materials. Materials that Chief Adebayo knew were defective but used anyway to save money. Fatima pulled out a folder. We have copies of the original specifications for that building, and we have lab reports showing the actual materials used. The difference is significant. How did you get this information? My father may have been just a civil servant, Halima said, but he kept very detailed records, and he had friends in the right places. Chinedu looked at the documents. The evidence was overwhelming. Chief Adebayo hadn't just cut corners, he had used materials that were dangerous. But how does this help us? Because, Alhaji Musa said, we're going to offer the government a solution. We're going to propose rebuilding that building using our new materials for free as a demonstration project. For free. Think about it, Halima said. The government is embarrassed by the building failure. They need to fix it, but they don't want to use the same contractor who caused the problem. If we can rebuild it for free, using revolutionary new materials, and prove that our materials are superior, we'll have every government contract in Nigeria, Chinedu finished. Exactly. And once we have government contracts, private companies will want to use our materials too. Nobody wants to be associated with inferior construction. But there's one problem, Fatima said. We need to prove that our materials actually work. We need to build something small first, something that will demonstrate the superiority of our products. What do you have in mind? Your current projects, Halima said. The ones that are failing because of Chief Adebayo's sabotage. I don't have materials to finish those projects. You do now, Alhaji Musa said. I'm prepared to provide you with our new materials, free of charge, for your current projects. In exchange, you'll document everything: the construction process, the strength tests, the cost savings, the time savings. And if it works, we'll have proof that our materials are superior. We'll have case studies to show potential clients. And you'll have successfully completed your contracts despite Chief Adebayo's best efforts. Chinedu felt hope for the first time in months. When can we start? Tomorrow, Fatima said. I've already arranged for the first shipment of materials to be delivered to your construction sites. But what about my workers? They're on strike. That's already been handled, Halima said. I've arranged for their back pay to be covered. They'll be back to work tomorrow morning. How did you arrange for their pay? I don't have the money. I used my dowry, Halima said simply. Chinedu stared at her. Your what? The money my father saved for my wedding. Money he gave me when I got married. I used it to pay your workers. But that was your money. For your future. My future is with you now. If your business fails, we both fail. If it succeeds, we both succeed. For the first time since they had gotten married, Chinedu felt like he was really seeing his wife. Not the quiet, limping girl he had married out of pity, but a strong, intelligent woman who was willing to risk everything for their shared future. Thank you, he said quietly. Don't thank me yet, she said. We still have to make this work. And Chief Adebayo isn't going to give up easily. The next morning, Chinedu arrived at his construction site to find chaos. The new materials had been delivered as promised, but someone had tampered with them during the night. Sir, Bello said, meeting him at the gate. Someone mixed sand with the new concrete powder, and they punctured several bags of the other materials. How much was damaged? About half of the shipment. But sir, there's something else. We found this note. Bello handed him a piece of paper. In block letters it read, "Stop now or face the consequences." Chinedu felt his anger rising. Chief Adebayo, should we call the police?
No.
He's too connected. The police won't help us. Chinedu pulled out his phone and called Halima. He sabotaged the materials, he said when she answered. I expected that, she said calmly. That's why I arranged for backup shipments. And this time we're going to be ready for him. What do you mean? I mean, we're going to catch him in the act. And when we do, we're going to make him wish he had never heard your name. That evening, Chinedu met with Halima and Fatima at a restaurant near the construction site. Halima had a plan, and it was more devious than anything he could have imagined. We're going to let him think he's winning, she said. We're going to spread the word that you're about to give up and sell your company to him. But I'm not going to sell. He doesn't know that. We're going to arrange a fake meeting where you pretend to negotiate selling your company. While he's distracted with that, we'll be documenting his sabotage operations. How? Fatima pulled out a small device. Hidden cameras. We're going to place them around all your construction sites. When his people come to cause more damage, we'll have video evidence. And then we'll have enough evidence to destroy him completely. Not just his attempts to sabotage you, but his entire operation. What do you mean? I mean, Halima said. We're going to expose every corrupt deal he's ever made, every bribe he's ever paid, every substandard building he's ever constructed. By the time we're done with him, he'll be lucky if he's not in prison. Chinedu felt a chill run down his spine. That's dangerous. He's a powerful man. He's a criminal, Halima said firmly. And criminals eventually get caught. We're just going to speed up the process. But what if he finds out what we're doing? He won't, because we're going to give him exactly what he thinks he wants, a broken man ready to give up. The next day, Chinedu put on the performance of his life. He called Chief Adebayo's office and requested a meeting. I want to discuss your offer to buy my company, he said, making sure he sounded defeated. Ah, Chinedu, Chief Adebayo said when he answered the phone. I was wondering when you would come to your senses. Things have been difficult for you lately, haven't they? Very difficult. I think it's time I accepted reality. Good. Come to my office tomorrow at 3 p.m. We'll discuss terms. That afternoon, Chinedu and Halima set up the hidden cameras around the construction sites. By evening, everything was in place. Are you sure about this? Chinedu asked as they drove home. I'm sure, Halima said. By this time tomorrow, Chief Adebayo will be finished, and your company will be on its way to becoming the most successful construction business in Nigeria. And if something goes wrong, then we'll face it together. But nothing is going to go wrong. I promise you that. Chief Adebayo's office was everything Chinedu had expected. Expensive furniture, expensive art, and an expensive view of Lagos Island. The man himself was sitting behind a massive desk, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Chinedu, he said with a fake smile. So good to see you. Please, sit down. Chinedu sat down, trying to look nervous and defeated. I have to say, I'm not surprised by your call, Chief Adebayo continued. I've been watching your recent troubles with great interest. Strikes, material shortages, client complaints. Very unfortunate. Yes, it's been challenging. Of course, these things happen in business, sometimes through no fault of our own. The smile on Chief Adebayo's face made it clear that he knew exactly whose fault it was. I'm ready to hear your offer, Chinedu said. Excellent. Now, when we last spoke, your company was worth perhaps 50 million naira. But given your recent difficulties, I think 20 million is more realistic. 20 million. For a company that had been worth 10 times that amount just a year ago. That seems low, Chinedu said. Does it? Let me ask you, what are your current assets? You have 3 unfinished projects, all behind schedule and over budget. You have workers who haven't been paid in weeks. You have suppliers who won't deliver materials. You have clients who are threatening to sue you. Chief Adebayo leaned back in his chair. Face it, Chinedu, your company is worthless. I'm offering you 20 million out of the goodness of my heart. I need to think about it. Think about it? What is there to think about? You're bankrupt. You're finished. Take my offer now, or in a few weeks you'll have nothing. Chinedu pretended to consider this. Can I have until tomorrow to give you an answer? Of course. But Chinedu, remember, I'm the only one willing to help you. No one else will make you an offer like this. As Chinedu left the office, he felt sick to his stomach. Not because of the lowball offer, but because of how confident Chief Adebayo was that he had won. But by tomorrow, that confidence would be shattered forever. That night, Chinedu's phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Bello. Sir, you need to see this. They came back. Chief Adebayo's people? Yes, sir. But this time we got everything on camera. Chinedu rushed to the construction site, where Bello was waiting with a laptop. Watch this, Bello said, starting a video. The footage was crystal clear. It showed 3 men entering the construction site, pouring sand into the concrete mixers, puncturing bags of materials, and even damaging some of the construction equipment. Do you recognize any of them? Chinedu asked. The tall one is Chief Adebayo's site manager. The other 2 work for him too. This is perfect. But we need more than just proof of sabotage. We have more, Bello said, switching to another video. Watch this. The second video showed the same men meeting with someone in a car. The person in the car was giving them money and what looked like instructions. Can you see who's in the car? Not clearly, but I got the license plate number. 20 minutes later, Halima called. The car is registered to Chief Adebayo's company, she said. But more importantly, I have the other evidence we need. What other evidence? Financial records, bank statements, contracts. Everything we need to prove that he's been systematically destroying small construction companies and bribing government officials. How did you get all that? Let's just say my father's friends in the right places were very helpful. The next morning, instead of going to Chief Adebayo's office to accept his offer, Chinedu went to the offices of 3 different newspapers and 2 television stations. By noon, the story was everywhere. Construction mogul exposed in corruption scandal. Chief Adebayo. Bribes, sabotage, and substandard buildings. Exclusive. Video evidence shows systematic destruction of competitors. The evidence was overwhelming. Not just the videos of the sabotage, but financial records showing payments to government officials, contracts that had been awarded through bribery, and technical reports proving that Chief Adebayo had been using substandard materials in government buildings. By 3 p.m., when Chinedu was supposed to be meeting with Chief Adebayo, the man's office was surrounded by reporters and investigators. Chinedu's phone rang. It was Chief Adebayo. You! He screamed. What have you done? I've exposed the truth, Chinedu said calmly. You have no idea what you've started. I will destroy you. I will. You will what? Sabotage my construction sites? Bribe government officials? Use substandard materials in buildings where people live and work? There was silence on the other end of the line. It's over, Chief Adebayo. Your company is finished. Your reputation is destroyed. And your criminal activities are now public knowledge. This isn't over, Chief Adebayo said, but his voice had lost all its confidence. Yes, it is, Chinedu said, and hung up. Within a week, Chief Adebayo's company had lost every government contract. His business partners had abandoned him. His workers had quit. And he was facing criminal charges for corruption, bribery, and endangering public safety. But the best part wasn't Chief Adebayo's downfall. The best part was what happened next. Chinedu's phone started ringing with calls from potential clients. Word had spread that he was the man who had exposed the corruption in the construction industry. Everyone wanted to work with the builder who had integrity. We want to hire you for our hotel project, one caller said. We need someone we can trust. We're planning a shopping complex, said another. We want to use your new materials. The government is interested in your innovative construction methods, said a third. They want to discuss a partnership. By the end of the week, Chinedu had more potential contracts than he could handle. The total value was over 500 million naira. How did this happen? He asked Halima as they sat in their living room, surrounded by contracts and proposals. People respect courage, she said, and they respect integrity. You could have taken Chief Adebayo's offer and walked away. Instead, you chose to fight for what was right. We chose to fight, Chinedu corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. That's what marriage is supposed to be, Halima said. 2 people working together to achieve something neither could accomplish alone. A month later, Chinedu stood in a construction site in Abuja, watching as workers used the new tin-based materials to rebuild the government building that had been damaged by Chief Adebayo's substandard work. The government had agreed to let them rebuild the entire structure for free as a demonstration of the new materials. If it worked, they would have contracts worth billions of naira. The strength tests are incredible, Fatima said, joining him at the site. These materials are performing even better than we hoped. And the cost savings? 40% cheaper than traditional materials, just like we projected. And the construction time is 30% faster. Chinedu watched as a crane lifted a prefabricated wall section into place. The wall was made entirely from processed tin mining waste, but it was stronger and lighter than anything he had ever worked with. Sir, Bello called from across the site. We just got a call from the Ministry of Works. They want to discuss using our materials for the new airport terminal. The airport terminal project was worth 2 billion naira. If they got that contract, Chinedu's company would become one of the largest construction firms in Nigeria overnight. Set up a meeting, Chinedu said. As he walked back to his car, he felt his phone buzz with a text message from Halima. Dinner is ready. Come home, my successful husband. Successful husband. 6 months ago, he had been a failing businessman marrying a girl he pitied. Now he was on the verge of becoming one of the most successful construction entrepreneurs in West Africa. But as he drove home, Chinedu realized that his business success wasn't the most important thing that had happened to him. The most important thing was that he had discovered who his wife really was. Halima wasn't the quiet, damaged girl he had married out of pity. She was a brilliant strategist, a loyal partner, and a woman who had risked everything to save his dreams. He had married her thinking he was doing her a favor. But the truth was, she had saved him in every way a person could be saved. As he pulled into his driveway, Chinedu saw Halima waiting for him at the door. She was wearing a simple dress and her headscarf, leaning on her walking stick, smiling at him. She looked exactly the same as she had on their wedding day. But everything else had changed. He got out of the car and walked toward her, and for the first time since they had gotten married, he felt like he was walking toward his future instead of away from it. Welcome home, she said as he reached the door. Thank you, he said, and meant it. But as they walked into the house together, neither of them noticed the car parked across the street. The car that had been following Chinedu all day. Inside the car, a man was speaking into a phone. They're both home, he said. Do you want us to proceed? Not yet, came the reply. But stay close. Chief Adebayo may be finished, but he's not going down alone. And he's decided that if he can't have Chinedu's company, no one can. The man in the car hung up and continued watching the house. Inside, Chinedu and Halima were about to sit down to dinner, unaware that their greatest challenge was still ahead of them. Because sometimes, when you destroy a powerful man's empire, he doesn't just accept defeat. Because sometimes, when you destroy a powerful man's empire, he doesn't just accept defeat. Sometimes he comes for revenge. 3 weeks later, Chinedu woke up to the sound of his phone ringing at 5 a.m. The caller ID showed Bello's number. Sir, you need to get to the Abuja site immediately, Bello said, his voice shaking. There's been an accident. What kind of accident? The crane collapsed. It fell right through the building we've been working on. The whole structure is damaged. Chinedu felt his blood run cold. Are there any injuries? 3 workers are in the hospital. And sir, the government inspectors are already here. They're saying our materials might be defective. That's impossible. We've tested those materials dozens of times. I know, sir, but the media is here too. They're saying this proves our new materials are dangerous. Chinedu hung up and immediately called Halima, but her phone went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Still nothing. A terrible thought crossed his mind. He called their house phone. No answer. He rushed to their bedroom, but the bed was empty. Halima wasn't there. Chinedu spent the next hour calling everyone he could think of. Halima's uncle in Jos, Fatima, even some of their neighbors. No one had seen her. Finally, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Chinedu, said a voice he recognized immediately. Chief Adebayo. Where is she? Chinedu demanded. Who? Don't play games with me. Where is my wife? Oh, you mean the crippled girl? She's safe. For now. What do you want? I want my life back. I want my company back. I want my reputation back. But since I can't have those things, I'll settle for watching your life fall apart the same way mine did. If you hurt her, you'll what? Expose me to the newspapers? I'm already finished, remember? Thanks to you and your clever little wife, I have nothing left to lose. What do you want? I want you to confess. I want you to tell the world that you sabotaged your own construction site. I want you to admit that your new materials are dangerous and that you've been lying to everyone. That's insane. I'm not going to confess to something I didn't do. Then your wife will pay the price. You have 24 hours to decide. The line went dead. Chinidu called the police immediately, but they were less helpful than he had hoped. We'll look into it, the officer said. But unless you have proof that she's been kidnapped, there's not much we can do. Maybe she just went to visit family. Her family is in Jos. I already called them. People go places without telling their families all the time. Chinidu realized he was on his own. He called Fatima. We need to meet, he said. Chief Adebayo has Halima. Are you sure? He called me. He wants me to confess to sabotaging my own construction site. That's ridiculous. The crane collapse wasn't sabotage. It was mechanical failure. Can you prove that? I can have the crane inspected, but that will take days. And even if we prove it was mechanical failure, the damage to our reputation might already be done. I don't care about our reputation. I care about getting my wife back. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Chinidu, there's something I need to tell you. Something about the crane collapse. What? It wasn't an accident. An hour later, Chinidu met Fatima at a coffee shop in Victoria Island. She had brought her laptop and several files. I've been investigating the crane collapse, she said. Look at this. She showed him photographs of the crane's base. There were clear signs that bolts had been loosened and cables had been cut. This was definitely sabotage, she said. But it was done by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Someone with construction experience. Chief Adebayo. Not Chief Adebayo directly, but someone working for him. Someone who knew how to make it look like an accident. Can we prove this? Maybe. But here's the problem, even if we can prove the crane was sabotaged, we can't prove who did it. And meanwhile, the story in the media is that our materials are dangerous. Chinidu looked at the newspaper headlines on Fatima's laptop. New construction materials linked to building collapse. Revolutionary materials or dangerous experiment? Government launches investigation into construction safety. This is exactly what he wanted, Chinidu said. He can't rebuild his own company, so he's determined to destroy ours. And he's succeeding. I've already had 2 clients call to cancel their contracts. How many contracts have we lost? So far? About 200 million naira worth. And if this continues, we'll lose everything. Chinidu felt like he was trapped in a nightmare. A few weeks ago, he had been on top of the world. Now his wife was missing, his company was under attack, and his reputation was being destroyed. What do I do? He asked. I don't know, Fatima said. But whatever you decide, you need to decide quickly. Because Chief Adebayo isn't going to wait forever. That evening, Chinidu sat in his empty house, staring at his phone. Chief Adebayo had said he had 24 hours to decide. It had been 18 hours since Halima disappeared. He thought about calling the police again, but he knew they wouldn't help. He thought about hiring private security, but he didn't know where to start looking for her. His phone rang. Chief Adebayo again. Have you made your decision? I want to talk to her. I want to know she's okay. She's fine. But she won't be if you don't do what I asked. How do I know you'll let her go if I confess? You don't. But you know what will happen if you don't. Give me more time. Time for what? Time to find her? Time to call the police? I'm not stupid, Chinidu. I know you've been trying to find her. But you won't. Not until you give me what I want. What you want will destroy everything I've worked for. Good. That's exactly what I want. And then what? You destroy my company, ruin my reputation, and then what? You're still finished. You still have nothing. Maybe. But at least I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you're finished too. The line went dead again. An hour later, Chinedu's doorbell rang. He opened it to find a young woman he didn't recognize. Mr. Okafor? My name is Grace Adeyemi. I'm a journalist with The Guardian. I need to talk to you about Chief Adebayo. I'm not interested in giving interviews right now. This isn't about an interview. This is about your wife. Chinedu felt his heart skip a beat. What about my wife? I think I know where she is. Grace pulled out a small recording device. I've been investigating Chief Adebayo for months. I know about his corruption, his bribery, his use of substandard materials. But I also know about something else. What? He owns a warehouse in Ikeja. A warehouse he uses for, let's call them unofficial business activities. Activities that aren't recorded in any official documents. Are you saying my wife is there? I'm saying it's possible. But here's the thing, I can't go to the police with this information. I don't have enough evidence, and Chief Adebayo still has friends in powerful places. Then why are you telling me? Because I believe your wife is innocent. And because I believe you're innocent too. The crane collapse at your site wasn't caused by defective materials. It was caused by sabotage. Can you prove that? I can. But I need your help. What kind of help? I need you to wear a wire. I need you to get Chief Adebayo to confess to kidnapping your wife and sabotaging your construction site. That's incredibly dangerous. Yes, it is. But it's the only way to save your wife and your company. Grace explained her plan. It was risky, but it was the only option Chinedu had. I'll call Chief Adebayo and tell him I'm ready to confess, Chinedu said. But I'll insist on meeting him in person. I'll say I want to make sure he actually has Halima before I destroy my own reputation. And when you meet him, I'll be wearing a wire. I'll get him to admit that he kidnapped her and that he sabotaged the crane. What if he refuses to meet you? He won't refuse. He wants to see me humiliated in person. He wants to watch me destroy everything I've built. And what if he discovers the wire? Then I'll probably end up in the same place as my wife. Grace looked at him seriously. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm sure. That man took the most important thing in my life. I'm going to make him pay for it. The next morning, Chinedu called Chief Adebayo. I'm ready to confess, he said. But I want to meet you first. I want to see my wife. You're in no position to make demands. I'm not making demands. I'm making a request. You want me to destroy my reputation publicly. The least you can do is let me see that my wife is safe before I do it. There was a pause. Fine. But you come alone. And you bring a written confession. Where do we meet? I'll send you an address. Be there at 6 p.m. After hanging up, Chinedu met Grace at a secure location where she fitted him with a tiny recording device. Remember, she said, you need to get him to admit 3 things. That he kidnapped your wife, that he sabotaged the crane, and that he's been systematically destroying your business. What if he doesn't say enough? Then keep pushing. Ask him questions. Make him angry. Angry people say things they shouldn't. And if this doesn't work, then we'll have to hope the police are more helpful than they've been so far. The address Chief Adebayo sent was for a warehouse in an industrial area of Ikeja. As Chinedu pulled up to the building, he saw that it was exactly what Grace had described. A place where unofficial business could be conducted without prying eyes. Chief Adebayo was waiting outside with 2 large men. Chinedu, he said with a fake smile. So good to see you again. Where is my wife? She's inside, safe and sound. Now, do you have the confession? Chinedu pulled out a piece of paper. I have it, but I want to see her first. Of course. Come inside. The warehouse was dark and smelled of oil and metal. In the center of the space, Chinedu saw a small office with glass windows. Inside the office, sitting in a chair, was Halima. She looked tired but unharmed. When she saw Chinedu, she tried to stand up, but one of the men motioned for her to stay seated. There she is, Chief Adebayo said. As promised. Now, let's see that confession. Chinedu handed him the paper. Chief Adebayo read it and smiled. Perfect. This admits that you sabotaged your own construction site, that your materials are dangerous, and that you've been lying to the government and your clients. Now let her go. Not yet. First, you're going to read this confession to a camera. I want a video of you admitting to everything. One of the men set up a video camera while the other one continued to guard Halima. You know, Chief Adebayo said as they waited, I have to admire your wife. She's been very brave through all of this. Very defiant. What do you mean? I mean, she's been telling me that I'm making a mistake, that I should let her go and focus on rebuilding my own business instead of destroying yours. Maybe you should listen to her. Oh, I don't think so. You see, I've lost everything because of you too. My company, my reputation, my contracts. Everything I spent 30 years building. So now I'm going to watch you lose everything too. You lost everything because you were corrupt. Because you used substandard materials and endangered people's lives. Is that what you think? That I was the only one cutting corners? That I was the only one paying bribes? Yes. Chief Adebayo laughed. You're so naive. Everyone in this business cuts corners.
Everyone paye bribe.
Everyone does whatever it takes to win contracts. The only difference is that I got caught. That's not true, isn't it? How do you think your precious new materials got approved so quickly? How do you think you got those government contracts so easily? What are you talking about? I'm talking about your wife's uncle. I'm talking about the deals he made to get your materials approved. I'm talking about the payments he made to government officials. Chinedu felt his blood run cold. That's not true. Oh, but it is. Your wife's uncle is just as corrupt as I am. The only difference is that he's been more careful about covering his tracks. You're lying. Am I? Ask your wife. Ask her what her uncle really does with all that mining money. Ask her how he's been able to operate for so many years without interference from environmental regulators. Chinedu looked toward the office where Halima was sitting. She was watching them through the glass, but she couldn't hear their conversation. Even if that's true, Chinedu said, it doesn't justify what you've done. It doesn't justify kidnapping my wife. Justify? I don't need to justify anything. I'm a man who has lost everything, and I'm taking my revenge. That's all the justification I need. So you admit it. You admit that you kidnapped her. Of course I admit it. Who's going to stop me? The police? They're too busy investigating your construction accident to worry about a missing person case. And you admit that you sabotaged the crane at my construction site. That was a work of art, wasn't it? One of my best saboteurs. He knew exactly which bolts to loosen, which cables to cut. Made it look like a perfect accident. People could have been killed. People should have been killed. That would have been even better for my purposes. Chief Adebayo was getting angrier, exactly as Grace had predicted. He was saying things he shouldn't say, admitting to things he shouldn't admit. You know what the best part is? He continued. Even if you don't read this confession, even if you don't publicly admit to sabotaging your own site, I've already won. The media coverage has destroyed your reputation. Your clients are canceling contracts. Your company is finished. Maybe, but you're still finished too. Yes, but now you're finished with me. And that's enough. Suddenly, the warehouse was filled with bright lights. The main doors burst open, and police officers poured in from all directions. Nobody move! Shouted a voice through a megaphone. This is the police. Chief Adebayo spun around in confusion. What? How? You're under arrest, said a police officer, approaching him with handcuffs. For kidnapping, sabotage, and conspiracy. This is impossible. How did you? The officer held up a small device. We heard everything, Chief Adebayo. Every word. As the police arrested Chief Adebayo and his men, Grace appeared from behind the officers. Good work, she said to Chinedu. You got him to confess to everything. How did you arrange for the police to be here? I didn't just bring you a wire, Grace said. I brought them a wire too. They were listening to everything from outside the warehouse. One of the officers freed Halima from the office. She ran to Chinedu and hugged him tightly. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said. "But I was so scared. I know. I was scared too." As they held each other, Chinedu realized that this was the first time in their marriage that they had truly needed each other. Not for business reasons, not for family obligations, but because they genuinely cared about each other's safety and well-being. "There's something else," Grace said. "We've been investigating Chief Adebayo's claims about your wife's uncle. We found evidence that he has been paying bribes to government officials." Chinedu felt his heart sink. "So he was telling the truth about that?" "Partially. But here's the thing, your wife's uncle isn't the only one who's been paying bribes. And the materials he's been producing aren't substandard. They're actually superior to anything else on the market." "I don't understand." "We think your wife's uncle has been paying bribes not to get away with producing inferior materials, but to get permission to produce superior materials. The government officials have been blocking innovation in the construction industry because they were being paid by companies like Chief Adebayo's to maintain the status quo." Halima looked up at Chinedu. "I need to tell you something. Something about my uncle." "What?" "He's not just a tin miner. He's an inventor. He's been developing new construction materials for 20 years. But every time he tries to get them approved, he faces bureaucratic obstacles. Officials who demand bribes, competitors who lobby against innovation, environmental groups who don't understand the science. So he's been paying bribes to overcome those obstacles?" "Yes, but not to get away with doing something harmful. To get permission to do something beneficial. That's still corruption." "Yes, it is. But it's not the same kind of corruption as Chief Adebayo's. My uncle has been paying bribes to help people, not to hurt them." In the weeks that followed, the full scope of the corruption in Nigeria's construction industry became clear. Chief Adebayo was arrested and charged with multiple crimes. His company was shut down permanently. Several government officials were arrested for accepting bribes. But the most surprising development was what happened to Halima's uncle. "The government wants to make a deal with him," Fatima explained during a meeting at Chinedu's office. "They want him to continue producing his innovative materials, but they want to make the process legal and transparent." "What kind of deal?" "They're offering him a special license to produce and market his materials without the usual bureaucratic obstacles. In exchange, he'll work with government inspectors to ensure that everything is done according to international standards." "And what does this mean for our company?" "It means we'll be the exclusive construction partner for the most advanced building materials in Africa. It means we'll have access to materials that are better and cheaper than anything our competitors can offer." "How much is this worth?" "Conservatively, over the next 5 years, probably 10 billion naira in contracts." 10 billion naira. Chinedu could barely comprehend that amount of money. "There's one more thing," Fatima said. "The government wants to use our materials for a major infrastructure project. They're planning to build a new city outside Lagos, and they want us to be the primary contractor." "A new city?" "Completely new. Residential areas, commercial districts, schools, hospitals, everything. It's the largest construction project in Nigeria's history." "How large?" 50 billion naira. Maybe more. Chinedu felt dizzy. 6 months ago, he had been on the verge of bankruptcy. Now he was being offered contracts worth more money than he had ever imagined. "But," Fatima continued, "there's a condition. The government wants to be sure that our company is completely clean. No corruption, no bribes, no shortcuts. They want us to be a model for how the construction industry should operate." "That's fine with me," Chinedu said. "I never wanted to be involved in corruption anyway." "Good. Because they're also requiring that we establish a foundation to train young construction workers and to provide affordable housing for low-income families." "A foundation?" "Yes. They want us to use part of our profits to give back to the community, to help people who can't afford quality housing." Chinedu looked at Halima, who had been quiet during this entire conversation. "What do you think?" he asked her. "I think," she said, "that this is why we're here. Not just to make money, but to make a difference. Even if it means giving away part of our profits? Especially if it means giving away part of our profits. Money is just a tool. The question is, what do we use it for? 6 months later, Chinidu stood on the balcony of his new office building, looking out over the construction site of the new city. Hundreds of workers were busy building the foundation for what would become home to over 1 million people. The housing units are ahead of schedule, Halima said, joining him on the balcony. And they're coming in 20% under budget. That's good news. And the school is almost finished. It will be ready for students next month. Even better news. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the construction crews work. The new city was taking shape exactly as they had envisioned it: modern, efficient, and affordable. Chinidu, Halima said after a while, do you ever think about how different our lives would have been if your mother hadn't asked you to marry me? All the time, he admitted. I think about how I would have lost my company, how Chief Adebayo would have destroyed me, how I would have ended up with nothing. And now I have everything. A successful business, more money than I ever dreamed of, and the most remarkable woman in Nigeria as my wife. Halima smiled. You know, when I first agreed to marry you, I thought you were doing me a favor. I thought you were taking pity on a poor, crippled girl from Jos. I was. But now I realize that I was the one doing you a favor. I was saving you from a life of mediocrity. You were saving me from a life of failure. No, Halima said, turning to face him. I was saving you from a life where you never realized your full potential. You always had the ability to build great things. You just needed someone to believe in you. And you believed in me? I believed in us. I believed that together, we could accomplish things that neither of us could accomplish alone. As they stood there, looking out over the city they were building together, Chinidu realized that his marriage had become everything he had never known he wanted. Not just a business partnership, not just a convenient arrangement, but a true partnership between two people who complemented each other perfectly. There's something I need to tell you, he said. What? I love you. It was the first time he had said those words to her. The first time he had even allowed himself to think them. I love you too, she said. I have for a long time. How long? Since the day you called me and asked me to marry you. Not because you wanted to marry me, but because you were willing to honor your mother's wishes even when it was difficult for you. That seems like a strange reason to fall in love with someone. It's not strange at all. It showed me that you were a man of integrity. A man who keeps his promises even when it costs him something. And now I love you for 100 different reasons. Because you're brilliant, because you're kind, because you're brave, because you're stubborn, because you make me laugh, because you make me think, because you make me want to be better than I am. You make me want to be better too. Good. Because we're going to need to be better. We're going to be responsible for a lot of people's lives. A lot of people's futures. Are you ready for that responsibility? I'm ready for anything, as long as we face it together. That evening, as they sat in their living room reviewing plans for the new city, Halima's phone rang. It was her uncle calling from Jos. Uncle, she said, answering the phone. How are you? Chinidu could hear the excitement in her uncle's voice, even though he couldn't understand the words. What? Halima said. Are you sure? That's incredible. What's incredible? Chinidu asked. Halima held up a finger, listening to her uncle. Yes, I'll tell him. Yes, we'll be there next week. Thank you, uncle. She hung up and turned to Chinidu with a huge smile on her face. What was that about? My uncle just got some news from the laboratory. They've been testing our materials for international certification. And our materials have just been approved for use in Europe and North America. What does that mean? It means we can export our materials to other countries. It means we can bid on construction projects all over the world. How much is that worth? I don't know exactly, but my uncle thinks it could be worth hundreds of billions of naira over the next 10 years. Chinidu felt like the world was spinning around him. Hundreds of billions of naira. It was more money than he had ever imagined possible. "There's more," Halima said. "3 American companies have already contacted my uncle. They want to form partnerships with us." American companies? Construction companies that specialize in affordable housing. They want to use our materials to build low-cost housing in American cities. That's amazing. And there's a company in Germany that wants to use our materials for disaster relief housing. Houses that can be built quickly and cheaply for people who have lost their homes in earthquakes or floods. We're going to be building houses all over the world? We're going to be helping people all over the world. That's what this is really about. As Chinedu sat there, trying to process everything that had happened, he realized that his life had been completely transformed. A year ago, he had been a struggling contractor in Lagos, about to lose everything. Now he was the co-owner of a company that was revolutionizing the construction industry across multiple continents. But the most important transformation wasn't his business success. It was his marriage. He had married Halima out of pity, thinking he was doing her a favor. But she had married him out of love, knowing she could help him become the man he was meant to be. She had seen his potential before he saw it himself. She had believed in his dreams before he believed in them himself. She had fought for his success before he was willing to fight for it himself. And now, as they sat planning their future together, Chinedu realized that he had been given the greatest gift a man could receive. A partner who made him better than he ever thought he could be. "Thank you," he said to her. "For what?" "For saving me. For believing in me. For making me rich." "I didn't make you rich," she said. "We made each other rich. In every way that matters." "You're right. We did." As they went back to reviewing their plans for the new city, Chinedu felt a sense of peace he had never experienced before. He had everything he had ever wanted. Success, wealth, respect, and love. But most importantly, he had finally learned the difference between marrying someone out of pity and marrying someone out of love. The first was a burden. The second was a gift. And he was grateful every day that his wife had been patient enough to teach him the difference. But as perfect as their life seemed, both Chinedu and Halima knew that their greatest challenges were still ahead. Because when you become as successful and wealthy as they were about to become, you attract attention from people who want to take what you have. And some of those people are more dangerous than corrupt construction contractors. Some of them are willing to do anything to get what they want. But that's a story for another day.